Okay, hello. Nice to meet you, sir.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Yay.
Thanks.
Woo.
All right, so my name is Zach. I was attending Florida Tech from 2011. I'm skipping ahead. 2011 to 2019. And I graduated with a BS in Sustainability Studies and an MS in Interdisciplinary Sciences. That sounds like a lot of you are kind of on a similar degree path, most of you, which is pretty cool. I was here before sustainability was even a twinkle in someone's eye in regards to what this campus did. So it's really cool and it sounds kind of cheesy, but inspiring to see how far it's really come. I say that with 6 people in the room, but I feel like there's a much bigger depth here going on than what's going on with these 6 people, which is great. And it's nice to see a lot of the stuff that's been implemented over the years stick around and be integrated into operations and then expands, like with the garden and the composting. That's pretty cool. We didn't even know if it'd make it 1 year, so that's really nice to see that. So my presentation is called Saving the Planet Through Cities and by Being Annoying. What the heck does that mean? I'll tell you later. But so, and real quick, my title actually changed between when I submitted this presentation to now. Yeah, so that's my real title. The other one is outdated, and I much prefer this one because the other one is a little bit different. I can explain that later, but I apologize for any stuff I'll give you as an out of date title, but that's fine. Okay, oh man, look at that. So yeah, I attended from 2011 to 2019, and I came to Florida Tech as a net major. I wanted to study hurricanes, believe it or not. I grew up in South Florida. Been through many of them. I'm sure you have by now. All had fun with those. So I was like dead set on that. But I always had a thing for, I guess, what would become the sustainability field. You know, things related to green construction, renewable energy, electric cars. And then Florida Tech had a minor in sustainability. And then by the time I was a junior, it had gotten its own major. And I was not enjoying the math and physics I was involved in meteorology. So I was like, you know what, that's got cool stuff. And it has meteorology within it for sure, in the form of climate sciences, weather studies, things like that. So I jumped ship and I became Dr. Ken Lindemann's with his students. I guess one of his first ones. I was like the 3rd or 4th sustainability studies major in the whole campus. Yeah, so yeah, old I am, but after I jumped ship to sustainability studies when I was a 2nd semester junior year, residence life, which I was involved in as an RA, got really invested into doing work with sustainability. So they started the sustainability or the residence life sustainability committee, and I became president of that. And we started kind of leveraging our ability as a student department more so than a club to kind of get things done. You know, clubs have their space, but as a department, we had budget and we had a little bit more of I would call it a voice directly to the high ups through our leadership, Jacqueline Hetherington. I don't know if you hear that name. She still works here. But yeah. So we quickly got involved with trying to make the residence halls more sustainable. You know, making them more efficient, cutting down waste, doing a lot of low-hanging fruit. And one of the first things we did was trying to establish a community garden, which was more from a project that was a living learning community based around sustainability that I don't think ever really got off the ground. That was supposed to be in Evans Hall, and we submitted a design to facilities at the time, the campus architect, Rob Zark, and he really loved it, but he noticed the little like garden that we put on the side of the building. He said, "What's that?" And we're like, "Oh, that's like a hydroponics garden. Don't really worry about that. We're really focusing on the building." And he's like, "Why don't you do that?" And we're like, "Yeah, we want to do that, but we also want to really do this building. Like that's why we're here." And he's like, "Why don't you just take the whole plot in front of Evans?" And then that completely flipped the conversation, and from there it just became what it is. I was involved in the Lead Green program. I don't know if that's around. It is around. Okay, that's awesome.
14,000 pounds. It's a lot.
That's amazing. That's incredible. The Live Green program, I don't know if that's around anymore. That was like an energy efficiency challenge between the dorms who could lower their consumption the most, and that worked for a while. But that was when Florida Tech had a dedicated sustainability officer. His name was Daniel Sutton. The first one, he was a really great guy, but he went on to bigger and better things as an architect up somewhere in the Northeast. Yeah, and then perhaps the biggest thing that I'll kind of segue into that leads to the rest of my presentation is getting an internship through the school with the city of Satellite Beach on the Bear Island. And that really changed everything for me, more so than any of what this is. That shows me where I think the biggest focus is for sustainability professionals, at least where I believe it should be. I'll get into that more, but that's a little bit about me. I'm on the tennis team too, RIP tennis team. But so if you want to save the world, save its cities first. Cities, I'm probably preaching to the choir here, but cities are by far, our largest contributors to a lot of the world's problems. And they contribute over 70% of greenhouse gas emissions. They take up only about 1% of space of Earth's landmass, but contribute to all these issues. So hitting them first in terms of sustainable practices, I think is really important. It can drive long-lasting change downstream for a very long time. So with what I do as Chief Resilience Manager for the city of Cape Canaveral, which is the city just south of Port Canaveral, sandwiched between Cocoa Beach. It's not NASA. We get calls all the time saying, where's the rockets? And they're not here. But my job is trying to make basically a future-ready city that has the balance of economic growth, environmental well-being, and community equity. A lot of people think that my job is just to preserve the trees, and it is so much more than that, albeit that is a great thing to do. There are a lot of things where we have to make sure that we can still not play the doom and gloom game as many do, and continue to have a city where people want to come to in the face of so many challenges, especially on a barrier island community where we face things like what you see on the left. So we have things to deal with like extreme weather, population growth in a relatively small area. The city is only 1.9 square miles, and my office is about 3 blocks from the ocean. And behind it, it's about 2 blocks from the Banana River Lagoon. Not much space to deal with, one way in or out. And that's State Road A1A. We have an aging infrastructure and we have an aging population. Over 50% of the city is what I would consider to be 55 and over. And well over 30% of that is 65 and over.
Is it like a retirement place? People can go retire?
Oh yeah, very much so. Very transitory city now too, with Airbnbs, a lot of that. Oh yeah. Then now with the growth of the space program, when I came to Florida Tech in 2011, the space shuttle program had just ended. It was August of 2011 that I came, and I think Shuttle Atlantis had its last flight in July of 2011. And a lot of the economy here slowed down to a crawl. I'm sure Florida Tech was a little nervous about what would happen. A lot of people left, but now it's a launch every other day. And we're getting a lot of economic growth in the form of hotels, aerospace companies coming directly to the city, military assets being established, tourism that goes with that. So there's a lot of things to juggle here. And, one of which is hurricanes, as I said. So going back to being a Met major, I kind of got to still do what I wanted to do. And now I try and save cities from them. But I think working for a municipal government is where a lot of people should try and go, because you can do so many things across a broad range of disciplinaries, everything from engineering to studying weather to stormwater management to biodiversity, beach things, so much stuff. And I guess now I was told to kind of tell you the story of the city, besides myself and like what I do, and how we do what we do. So I was hired in December 2018, first as an intern with the city of Cape Canaveral, and then in June of 2019, after I graduated, I became full-time. My job title was sustainability manager at the time. And one of the first projects that I worked on at the tail end was the creation and finishing of a vulnerability assessment. And this was done in collaboration with the East Central Florida Regional Planning Council, which they're an excellent resource. I think one of the people that you should probably try and have come speak to you guys, because they can help you a lot of inroads and a lot of jobs. Good paying jobs. And so this vulnerability assessment essentially took sea level rise with hurricane storm surge that is found today and coastal flooding, and showcased what could be possible within the boundaries of the city. And there was a lot of unsurprisingly bad things that were shown. We're looking at a sea level rise range of somewhere between 5 and 8 feet by 2100. We're looking at compounding issues from that, like stormwater failure, from groundwater rising, lagoon rising, backfilling our pipes where all the outfalls are, increased hurricane activity, power outages that are longer and longer, things like that. So in response to that, we wrote a resiliency action plan. And one of the things that I did with the city of Satellite Beach when I was an intern for them between 2016 and 2019 was write their own sustainability action plan. And that allowed me to do the groundwork for writing this plan. Notice I changed the name to resiliency. Now, I think when you go into the real world and go and find a job, I would encourage you to tack this word onto it rather than sustainability, actually. Because this word, for whatever reason, is a little bit less politically charged. You can kind of branch it to, I think, a lot more things. And you can speak to both aisles with this word a lot more easily, because we love safety and security and independence that resilience can afford you as an individual. Independence from government, independence from utilities, be your own self kind of thing. This resiliency action plan ended up having 56 what we call preparedness targets, which are actionable living goals meant to enhance community well-being and resilience of city operations against disasters. And we always tied it back to disasters. We didn't tie it back to climate change. We did talk about sea level rise very openly, but never really in reference to climate change. And in a council that is very mixed and divided across the political spectrum in a very red city, this plan passed 5-0 on the council. So that being said, I say that because there is hope that we can get along, and there is hope that we can do things through this lens and still be civil about it and get things done. This has a 30-year implementation period, so basically out to 2050. And it gets audited every 5 years to ensure that we're meeting compliance of the targets and actually fulfilling the things that we're saying that we want to do. And it has helped transform every level of the city's government in terms of its policy development and its infrastructure implementation. So what have we done? So first and foremost, I think it's important to understand what the heck is actually happening to us in terms of climate change and sea level rise, because there is a ton of data out there. NASA and NOAA are great. They have satellites orbiting all the time telling us all these crazy things. But at a hyper local level, like the size of 1.9 square miles, we don't know much about what's going on. So we've started installing a system of remote sensor sites that now comprises of 4 weather stations, still back to weather, can't get in, and 4 tide gauges. So now we're actively measuring sea level rise in the lagoon, and we're measuring weather changes across the land area at our public works facility, which is the one on the far left, at our city hall, at our community center, and across a few public parks. So that has been really cool. And this data has been instrumental in telling us what's going on. And most of these were installed before Hurricane Ian came through, which was amazing to see the data profile as the storm basically passed right over the city. And we were able to record, this is storm surge data. This is the lagoon, the Canaveral lagoon rising on the west side of the city as Ian's winds pushed it towards the barrier island away from the mainland. And we were able to show that this did indeed backfill our stormwater pipes and did indeed warrant the construction of a pump station, which we would not have been able to probably prove as objectively as we did. So these are 3 sensor sites, all showing a water rise. Pretty clearly evident that it's going on. And with the weather stations, we're able to show rainfall events that we could only really, rely on the National Weather Service to tell us from their site at the airport in Melbourne, here, which is miles away. So this is a rain event that we captured on September 14th, 2022, where we got about 3 inches, almost 4 inches of rain in about 2 hours, which completely blew our stormwater system, no pun intended, out of the water. We had street flooding for a long time, several hours. And not just like street flooding, like, oh, there's puddles across the street, like it was getting close to people's homes. And this is a trend that we've noticed more and more, and we've recorded 5 such events in the last 3 years since these guys came online. Most of this rain fell, over an inch of rain fell from this event in just 15 minutes, which is unbelievable. And it's dangerous to point any particular event to climate change without really, a lot of analysis, but that's pretty spectacular. And in a water vapor charged atmosphere like ours with climate change, seeing this is not out of the ordinary anymore, unfortunately. So this is the type of stuff that we now can justify doing large scale projects to the taxpayers because they see it happening to them immediately. So we've been investing in a lot of things like green infrastructure, and a good example of that is our CO planting, which we do every year and have been since 2005. We've planted over 176,000 of these little guys, which has done wonders for the dune system of the city. These are coming up all up and down Brevard County and the east coast of Florida. A lot of these were eaten away by Hurricane Nicole, and I'm sure you guys have been to the beach and seen that there is really no beach in many places. But in Cape Canaveral, we still have a beach. If you come to our city, you will be able to go out onto a nice flat plain, and the dune system still exists. There's no cliffs. These COs have done wonders for that. And green infrastructure in general is kind of the new name of the game when it comes to stormwater management, erosion control, and climate change mitigation, because living infrastructure is the only infrastructure that appreciates over time instead of depreciates, like gray infrastructure does with pipes and concrete and rebar and stuff. These only get better. So with that, we're planting mangroves, cord grasses. We have bee mats, they're called, which is the floating island on the lower right that help uptake nutrients from stormwater ponds and clean them. We're doing a lot with alternative fuel vehicles, and notice I say alternative fuel vehicles, not electric vehicles, although that's clearly what we're doing. Again, alternative fuel vehicles goes over very well across the aisles. We support all forms of travel, but in a place like Cape Canaveral, electrification is really what makes the most sense for us. So we have a fleet now comprised about 26% that is electrified, which is really cool, and that consists of hybrids and full electric vehicles. I personally drive a fleet vehicle. This one, it's actually called Sparky. It's a Ford Focus from 2017. It's the first one that we got. We have a Nissan Leaf, and then we have a series of hybrids. And we just took delivery of our first F-150 hybrid, which is great because a lot of people before this were like, hybrid trucks, that'll never happen. And we do this because, even breaking this down to a local issue, a lot of the nutrient pollution that we see within the lagoon is attributed to atmospheric deposition, which can come directly from fossil fuel emissions. So by buying electrics, we're actually helping the lagoon. There's the first F-150 hybrid that we got, and we bring in other people too to try and do demos for staff, because a lot of this is about just desensitizing people to this, that in fact it does exist, that it is possible, and really just showing people that it can be a lot of fun. You know what I mean? Unfortunately, there's a lot of polarization in the world, and people demonize things like this. But we brought in this company is called Archimoto, and their vehicle is actually called the Fun Utility Vehicles, FUV. That's literally the destination. And Florida is one of the few places where it can be driven. Us in California, I don't know what Florida did for that, but we were looking at maybe integrating this into some of our fleet operations to do some like point-to-point stuff real quick. This thing goes 75 miles an hour and has 102 miles of range, and it's all electric. So it's really cool. But this got a lot of people excited about electric vehicles and kind of got the ball rolling for some people where maybe they just weren't getting it. There's my fleet vehicle charging up at Public Works, Sparky. We do a lot of electric vehicle events. It sounds like you're gonna have one too soon, which is awesome. But we use the same exact people. Space Coast, where they just changed their name. I don't remember what it is, but they're really great. And they only have more and more of a portfolio now, which is awesome. And now we're trying to get some electrified police cars in the fleet too. And this is a rendering of what it could look like. So we outsource our protective services to the Brevard County Sheriff's Office. Cape Canaveral doesn't have its own police force. We use the county's services for that. So it's a little hard to do that since we don't own those vehicles, but we do pay for their stuff. So we do a little bit of saving. That's a Mach-E Mustang. And for electrification, that is really cool because we can power these vehicles on site. We cannot build a natural gas facility in Cape Canaveral, but we can put up a solar array like that and charge them ourselves. So, we do a lot of, like I said, a lot of living infrastructure. The term low impact development, I don't know if anybody heard that. That's probably something that's going to get real popular real soon. It really already is. This is, again, just using design practices that don't really impede on the land's natural ability to uptake stormwater and things like that. This is a pocket park where the asphalt is permeable, so water can go through that. That's old recycled tires on the ground. They have the black stuff. There's this bioswale back there. For us, it's all about putting water out of the streets, having enough available buckets. As the city was built unsustainably for the last few decades, the stormwater system that's designed to transport water away from homes has been outgrown by the development of the city. So we're putting in new buckets like this. This is a 930,000 gallon stormwater system underneath baseball fields that we have. So stormwater now goes here instead of the lagoon where it's treated by letting it percolate below ground. Google Earth happened to get it while they were doing it on the right. And then the one on the left is the construction of it under our city hall parking lot. So that's pretty cool. Solar lighting is something we're heavily investing in. We have over 160 solar heads in the city. We're actually going through a program to upgrade all of them from older designs that are just really outdated because the technology has progressed so quickly to these newer ones here. And these are really cool because we can actually lower these on a hinge. The whole pole swings down if there's ever a wind event that we need to not have them up. Really cool stuff. Flood barriers, we're putting those in place. This is at our water treatment plant. Much better than sandbags. Oh my God, sandbags are the worst thing in the world. But these flood barriers will go in like 30 seconds. One staff member, they're 3 feet high. They clamp into a latch and then the water pressure holds them to the door. And they are really good. We have never had to use them, fortunately, but I think they'll do pretty well if we ever had to. And if water does get up to where the top of those are, we have much bigger things to worry about. This is our water treatment plant, also called the Water Reclamation Facility. Melbourne has one. There's one up the street where probably Florida Tech's sewage goes. So the city of Cape Canaveral has its own sewer utility. And this services all 10,000 residents of the city and their businesses and residences. This has a capacity of 1.8 million gallons per day. And the objective here is to properly treat it, make sure it never spills. The lagoon is right next to it. That water body to the south is the Banana River Lagoon. And you can see how close some of that infrastructure is to that drop off, which keeps me up at night. But we're looking at doing a lot of things to harden this. We've installed new backup generators, new systems to treat the water even better than what it is now. The tank you see on the right inside that semi-enclosed building contains microbes that we can inject remotely into this waste stream so that they can eat it and break it down more efficiently. It's a 6,000 gallon tank. And then the generator on the left kicks in if there's ever a grid failure. So the pumps can keep going and keep circulation of the water. Because if it backs up, that's when things get real bad. This is a cool project. We've put in a new lightning protection system at the plant. You can see lightning in Florida is no joke. It's the lightning capital of the United States. And in 2021, lightning struck the water treatment plants and caused over $70,000 in damages. It blew apart our radio antenna that communicates with the lift station throughout the city to help pump sewage to the plant. We lost circuit breakers, generators messed up. It was really bad. So we installed this new system here called a CMCE device that basically drains charge out of the atmosphere and prevents a ground connection from occurring. So it's better than a lightning rod because it doesn't let lightning hit in the first place. So we have 2 of these now. protecting the treatment plant, and we have never had a strike on property since we installed these, which is incredible.
When were they installed?
January of 2022.
Okay.
We just installed one last week on our city hall and over our rec center. So they're pretty cool. So these are some of my favorite projects. We just finished building a new community center. This is it right here. It's called the City of Cape Canaveral Community Center. Crazy cool name, I know. This is a 24,000 square foot facility that we have built as the city's first resilience hub. And that is a buzz term that you'll probably hear in the future too. I don't know if Dr. Lindeman's ever talked about that term, but this is a facility that we want to act as a community center when things are going just fine, but can be turned over to a logistics and recovery center in the event of a disaster. This can withstand a Category 5 building. We're putting flood barriers on this next year, just in case. And it has a solar array on the roof, as you can see there. It's a 48 kilowatt system that is offsetting about 54% of the building's usage annually, which is equating to about $12,000 in savings every year. We're looking to save, so this number, I actually didn't update that. This number is actually now conservative. We believe that we'll be saving over $300,000 over 25 years and saving 1,300 tons of emissions over the same time. 25 years is because when the warranty for the panels ends, but it could go longer for that. I've seen studies of panels in Europe that have been installed in the 80s and 90s that are still kicking. So that's incredible. I'm sure they'll do just fine. And this has 72 panels and it's rated to withstand 160 miles per hour. Yes, so I don't think we'd have to worry about much if that actually happened, but at least they'll know they'll still be there. So we have plans to next year add a battery storage system to this building, which we think will be the first in the county to do that. Because we want, right now, panels are functioning normally and a storm comes and the power goes out, they actually shut off when they stop producing power for safety of linemen working on power poles adjacent, because they will continue to feed electricity to the grid, regardless of what's going on. So they turn off for everyone's safety. But when we install the battery system, these will charge those. We can dispense power for what we believe will be about 4 hours for use for people to come and get water, cool off, get Wi-Fi, things like that in a really bad situation. Kind of like we envision like a Hurricane Ian type situation on the West Coast. We want to be prepared for something like that. Our second building that is about to have a solar array commissioned is the Cape Center. Now, believe it or not, this is what Cape Canaveral City Hall used to look like. And I was fortunate, never have to work in this building. This was built in 1963, and there was apparently like close to 30 people in here, which is crazy. This has been completely rebuilt. Look at it. That's like 2018. And this is now. So this is going to be Cape Center, stands for Cultural Arts Preservation and Enrichment Center. And it's basically a cultural heritage museum that will showcase the city's history, this history of the Space Coast, and a lot of sustainability type showcases. Like one of the first ones we're going to do is about the feather trade that was in this area well over 100 years ago. And we want to do a lot of like environmental justice projects in here because we think this is kind of an appropriate space to do that, where people can come and they might complain about it, but it's a museum. This is where we're supposed to show this stuff. So, but you know, being that that is in its portfolio, we want it to be as sustainable as possible. So this also has a solar array that has about, this is actually a 25 kilowatt capacity. They had to make it a little smaller than what this shows. But the stats are about the same for the electrical savings and the CO2 savings. Same type of design as the one on the community center, the ballasted thing that is dual tilt. So it undulates in an east-west manner. So it captures the full day sun. They don't only face south. So it makes it like almost 30% more efficient than just a south-facing system. And then next year, we want to put in one for the Brevard County Sheriff's Office building, which is right next to this. You can see the energy savings throughout the year mapped out. I'm looking for 100% offset for this one and saving a lot of money over 25 years. And you can see the return on investment period. I would wager to bet, this was done 2 years ago. I wager to bet that this is even better now because FPL bills have gone up a lot in recent years. And a lot of that can be traced back to fossil fuel um, market volatility. So natural gas, really. And this is one for our Public Works admin building. This one has really good financial savings. The ROI is very quick on this one. That's kind of all I got. Those are some of our bigger projects. We have a lot more than that. So within the structure of the city or the department that I work in is called the Community and Economic Development Department. And within that, we have a division that is new as of 2022 called the Resilience Division. And that is the one that I lead with a small team. And we always need more and more help. Projects keep coming through us. And with that being said, I would really love to offer someone an internship from this room or anyone else that you know. It would be unpaid, but I would guarantee you a lot of experience. And I have learned in my time that getting education from this school is amazing, and it's one of the best things we'll ever do. And I never regret my time here at Florida Tech. I look back on it very fondly. But the thing that really was able to set me apart in my career path was my internship with the city of Satellite Beach and the projects, the real world style projects that I did on this campus with residents live through their committee. So I would encourage any of you to get an internship, whether it's with me or anybody, it doesn't matter, to get as much real world projects under your belts as you can, because that is what people are really looking for right now, and need a lot of help too. So that's what I would encourage you to do. I definitely need help. We could work out a schedule. It can be in person, it can be remote, it can be hybrid, whatever. But I have business cards that I'll leave, and you have my contact info. So please, we need help. We're growing a lot and we're doing a lot of cool projects. And with that, getting back to the original title of the presentation, what did I mean by being annoying? So, I think when I started my internship with Satellite Beach, a lot of this phrasing and terms that we use were very new, and people were very hostile even sometimes to talking about it. I think that's changed a lot in a better direction, especially in a local government situation. Perhaps not so at higher levels of government, like in some larger counties, states, and certain administrations for the federal government. But at the local level, those partisan issues tend to disappear, and the issues in front of you really just take root. So for us, we build everything through the lagoon and hurricane safety. You don't have to go much higher than that in terms of scope. If people are getting a solar array on their roof to mitigate electricity loss from a hurricane, they're helping deal with climate change, whether they know it or not. That's okay. But as a sustainability or resilience professional, as in a local government, you have the chance to be what I would say annoying, where you insert yourself into every level of that government's structure, every department. And if you get in there, you stay in there and you force your way in to every meeting and to every council meeting and say what needs to be said, because there's a lot to do and there's a lot at stake if we stay silent. And I was definitely met with opposition when I started in Cape Canaveral. We were not, the shining city on the hill doing all this stuff. And I was put with a boss who I would very much label as a climate change denier. And I was like, this is not going to work. We got some problems here. And what I did was I was really annoying, and I went to everybody else and got done what I needed to get done, and basically pitched my case for, this isn't going to work. And I got moved, and I got into a department that appreciated this type of work and wanted it. And what I did was, he wasn't going to go anywhere. It's hard to fire people in city government, actually, but I just kept going around him. And I just, went to the people where it mattered. And that really annoyed him. And he and I don't speak much, but that's okay. He's retiring in July.
Woo! Yeah.
Yeah. So persistence and then being annoying won out. And there is nothing now that we don't do through the lens of resilience and sustainability. So, by being annoying and showing people what's possible, you can really open their eyes to even the most basic of changes that could be for the better. So, everybody likes to save money. In Florida, everybody likes good water and good air. And people can get excited about some things when you kind of show them something new sometimes, something cool. I've seen people's faces light up when they sit in an electric car for the first time and they say, this is not what I thought it was. I don't know what I thought it was, but this is not what I thought. And this is great. So just really inserting yourself and just being present, be there. Don't be afraid to get in people's faces professionally and say what needs to be said. And just if they don't get along, then you will be coveted somewhere else because this is a very fast growing position. And people are looking for people like you all the time, especially in city governments, where many of them are on the back burner now trying to remedy issues that have been going on for decades with poor planning and things like that. So that's really all I have. If anybody has any questions, I got nothing to do. So it's always nice to come back to Florida Tech. I'd be happy to answer anything you got. So thanks for having me. Oh, and I would also love to take everyone here on a tour of the city and show you these projects up close. I'll definitely get back to you faster than 2 to 4 weeks, like OUC. I can get you some contacts for. Did you talk to FPL?
Tried, I couldn't find anything on their website at all.
I'll give you our rep, Sue Williams. She's great.
Okay.
She can help you probably get something faster. I've seen their battery storage facility in Manatee County. They're one at FIU in Miami. They're doing some cool stuff. Now, I don't always agree with how they do things, but they are our utility. So I do have to play nice every once in a while. I do love calling them when we have a new solar array coming online. That's not theirs. That's a guilty pleasure. But anybody have any questions or comments or anything like that?
Alternative trans. Okay, has anybody ever encountered that? Or was it alternative fuel? Alternative fuel transportation or something?
What about it?
Like when did that come? I've never heard it.
Oh, like the phrasing of it? It's been around for as long as I remember it.
Maybe
yeah. Basically just to describe fuels that aren't diesel or gasoline.
Okay, so that's more the way. Hello. So have a good day. Okay.
Yeah, so this is like compressed natural gas, liquefied natural gas, propane, batteries, hybrids, plug-in hybrids, biofuels. That's probably all. There's probably something I'm missing, but that's a good chunk of them.
So in other words, that's why it's less politically charged, because it doesn't have to be just electric and solar.
Right. We can go, especially in the type of city that we have, we can go a long way with hybrids. I actually encourage their procurement because they offer us really great savings. They behave like electric vehicles a lot in the stop-start environment that we have with a lot of idling. And good bridge vehicles for some people are like, I went into the city and was like, everything will be electric in 5 years. And then I was met with the harsh reality of someone approached a hybrid, not even a full electric, and turned it on and obviously didn't make any noise because it was on battery. And he's like, can't drive this, it's broken. We have a long way to go. But we learned a lot with that hybrid and he really ended up liking it. So it's a good bridge vehicle. That's a good question.
I could ask you one thing, anybody else in common?
Oh, I do.
Okay.
What kind of, because I'm mechanical engineering, if I wanted to internship with like the city, what would that entail?
Oh my God, that was one of my questions. Yeah.
We could get you working on like projects and shadow our engineers. We're about to bid out our engineering services to a third party. So we don't have the staff to have that capacity, and we don't have an on-staff engineer. He just retired at the nice age of 82. They're a very well-served career. So we're outsourcing to a company soon that, and I imagine I would get you within the resilience division and you would shadow these meetings, these engineers. We could have you on calls with them. You could look at designs, schematics, site reviews, building plans, field visits. I'd get you on anything that I could so that you could say that you did it. The name of the game is experience. So every intern that we've had come through our program, which is now at number 4, and we actually have a Florida Tech intern right now in the resilience division. they have gone on to do really cool things. One just got a job with the Florida Department of Environmental Protection in Tampa. The one just got a job with the city of Richmond, California, doing climate resilience planning. So they are doing cool stuff. We've had an intern do an entire municipal operations greenhouse gas emissions inventory. And they presented it to our city council. They accepted it 5-0. Again, crazy. I don't know, they can't get along with anything else, but thankfully with sustainability they do. And that's like no small feat. We have an intern that just completed a LEED for city certification, which is basically, you've heard of LEED certification for a building. This is for the entire city. It's the United States Green Building Council. We are pretty close to, we're shooting for LEED silver. So,
So that'd be really good.
yes, we're trying to, we have a goal to get to beat Orlando. They're our frenemy, but
They're
silver's
lovely.
good. They're a little there. Did you have a question?
Oh, yeah, sorry, let's see. So I'm an ocean engineer and I was wondering, do you guys happen to have any projects kind of water-based or anything like that?
Not particularly water based, I'd say water adjacent. If that makes sense. A lot of living shoreline construction, about to start doing that. We want to do like wave attenuation devices, that would be in the water. We do stuff with the beach, obviously it's not water per se, but like dune security and maintenance. We do a lot of stuff with stormwater, but we don't do it, we definitely don't do anything in the ocean. But we do stuff with the lagoon. So we could find the stuff for that. But it might be not. What are you like looking? What's your ideal project?
Let's see, I'll be honest, I have no idea. I just do love the ocean. I love going in and stuff like that. And I like a lot more of the hydropower and stuff like that.
For sure.
Maybe buildings around that area, because I mean, being barrier island, I don't know, the speed of the river and stuff like that, but we could probably, you know, depending on how it's set up, try to get a little bit for some of the adjacent housing or something like that.
City of Cape Canaveral, one of the things I'm most proud of is kind of oriented the thinking of the city to be that of like a startup, not like government, which is just painfully slow, like OUC. So any and all ideas are welcome until we absolutely know they can't work. Like I said, we'd find you engineering related work. You know what I mean? It may not be exactly what you're looking for, but you at least be able to say that I've worked on real world projects. And I've gone through, you know, what it takes to get it start to finish through a government, which is something that you'll have to do wherever you go. I mean, chances are you'll be working with some government-owned utility, a municipality doing permitting and site prep. So,
Hey, yeah, thanks, man.
you're welcome. Here are my cards. Just let me know. I'd even be willing to take on 2, but probably no more than that. So I guess it's first come, first served.
Okay, so don't share it with the rest of the club.
Yeah, yeah.
I figured this would be a good group to ask. So,
Nathaniel, I won't lie, like 30 minutes and I was like, oh my gosh, you're here. Yeah, yeah.
I'll leave the rest right here.
Very nice business card, good color coordination with it.
Thanks.
Yeah,
We have a good graphics team.
nice.
Yeah.
What- Okay, random question, if nobody else has any. But this is off topic from the intern, it was actually back to one of the things you were saying. Do you act for any like tax incentives or things to the residents for putting solar on their house?
So we don't, but the federal government does.
The IRA? Okay.
Right, that's been a game changer. And a game changer for us too, because prior to that, because we are not a taxed entity, we couldn't take advantage of tax credits from the federal government. But the IRA offers direct cash reimbursements of solar and battery projects, upwards of 30%. So these projects are practically paying for themselves. Now that we have that, besides the return on investment with the utility savings. We've even started figuring costs like social cost of carbon. Where, yeah, where you get a dollar figure for the amount of damage every 1 ton of carbon or every 1 ton of methane does to the environment. And the ecosystem services that we rely upon, especially in Florida. The federal government's amount for that is $51 per ton, which is definitely too low. Under the previous administration, it was $1 per ton. It was laughable, but it was raised back up to $51 per ton, which is what it was under the Obama administration. And they're thinking about redoing it again, but I think a judge got involved and that's in limbo. But a lot of scientific papers that I've read put it somewhere north of $150 per ton for CO2, probably close to 200. I've seen some go up like $1,000 per ton or something like that. But that's stuff that I even try and make our council members aware of and say, hey, every time you should look at CO2 emissions as a utility, where it's something that you should look to conserve as much as possible, like you would electricity or water, because you're paying for it, whether you know it or not. It might be a little harder to visualize that, but you're paying for it. And with us, we're paying for it from damages like sea level rise directly, hurricanes and things like that. So the social cost of carbon is something that we know put into our savings costs. But we have a few incentive programs for residents to take advantage of, where we give mangroves away for free, trees like landside trees and rain barrels.
Mhm.
But we have nothing involved with energy conservation type programs, because then we start to impinge on FPL.
Okay, yeah.
They
I figured
constrain
it'd
us.
have something to do with it.
They constrain us quite a bit.
Yeah.
They have a lot of programs that we do promote. They have a home EV charging program now. They have community solar program. So the entire city's energy portfolio is subscribed to FPL's community solar program, which is called the Solar Together program,
Mhm.
where we basically, almost like a community garden, subscribed our kilowatt hours to a utility scale solar array somewhere out in the Florida mainland. And took like a section of panels virtually. We're not getting that power directly. It's a virtual offset, but we're looking at saving almost $400,000 over 30 years with that program. So that's better than nothing, but I rather also combine that with on-site solar and batteries,
Mhm.
because you never know.
Yeah. That was one of the advantages I thought of solar, is that when it's on site, you don't have to be connected to like a larger thing. So it's more resilient in that sense. If something goes out, you still have it.
Yes, as long as you pair it with a microgrid system and a battery storage system, panels will do exactly what you just said, yeah.
Mhm.
Otherwise, they will just sit on your roof after the power outage, which is, 99% of the time you're taking advantage of them, but in that 1% power outage time, you're not. But that's something we want to, so.
Mhm.
And diesel generators are great. That's another thing too. We never want to get rid of our diesel generators until they age out. They're perfectly fine assets, and they really don't have much of a carbon footprint in terms of their usage. But we want to pair battery systems with them so that they can help each other extend their own lives. So let the batteries work for a few hours a day. Thinking the generator can't get power to them for some reason, the solar could take over.
Mhm.
So it's a beautiful thing when it all comes together.
Do you, I know places, okay, like I said, if no one has any questions, I can talk.
I can stay after so long.
Okay, yeah, I don't want to keep anybody guessing.
I can talk about this for hours.
Yeah, I mean, I forgot what my question was, darn it. Never mind. I had it and I don't remember, so.
It's okay. You have my email.
Pretend it. Yeah. It was. Oh, yeah, like if Miami was, they like are afraid it's literally gonna be underwater. That's not really a concern so much on this side of the coast.
It is, but we have a little bit more time.
Okay,
There-
because they're like right in the Everglades, right?
We've probably got about 20-30 years ahead of them.
Oh, that's a decent amount of time.
Yeah, but that being said, all these climate models that we use to predict what's going to happen in the future, they don't take into account system shocks that could throw everything off overnight.
Mhm.
The elephant in the room is the Waits Glacier. Everybody's heard of that in Antarctica. I highly recommend that you look into that glacier. You might not sleep that night, but the Thwaites Glacier is a glacier that in West Antarctica that a lot of the people that I talk to, and whether it's here, we actually work with Stetson University a lot too. Sorry, Tech, but we have to cultivate all of our resources. Where the Thwaites Glacier, so it's a weird spelling, THWAIT. There it is. I would ignore the Doomsday Glacier nomenclature. I think that's counterproductive. I really don't like the Doomsday stuff, but it is realistic to think that this particular glacier, if it were to, the ice sheet were to break free, sea level rise would happen very quickly in terms of geologic times. And it has the ability to raise sea levels, like that says, by as much as 2 feet. I've seen up to 6 feet too, but this is a glacier, and they just did a big research expedition, try and find what's going on. So, we don't take things like this into account when we do these sea level rise scenarios, the climate models. So that's why I go above and beyond and say, hey, this may not be right. And we need to prepare for really the upper echelon of that range, because stuff like this can happen, where one day it could break and the West Antarctic ice sheet begins to flow unabated into the ocean. So definitely, I've been told that I'm, what's the word? I don't want to say paranoid, but overthinking things. And I say to that, well, it would have been nice to have overthought things before Hurricane Ian wiped out a few things here and there. Or it would have been nice to overthink things before a train derailed in Ohio and blew up half the state. So that's a mute point to me. And then that makes me look annoying, and then I like it. And then people start saying, oh, maybe we should. So yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Anybody else have any questions?
I had a question.
Are these new? Is this is like in every classroom now?
Yeah, pretty much.
That's crazy.
What is?
Tripod and the camera.
Oh, yeah. Because
Yeah,
of COVID. Yeah. Weird.
But if we're going through a hurricane on Fort Tech, I thought it was weird. I can't imagine COVID.
I know it was.
Oh, you probably stop recording.
Any other questions?
So about your electric vehicle fleet, how much do the three-wheeled vehicles cost?
Those start at a handsome $19,000.
Okay.
Go upwards of 30, depending on how much you want out of it.
Have you all heard of Atera?
Yes.
Yes, okay. Because they're solar powered and they're like around 25,000. So I feel like, and I mean it's still a 2-seater, but it has a bit more storage space and it be about the same price. So
I will look into any fleet vehicle that's
Yeah.
electric,
I mean they're pretty cool. So
especially for a city of our size. The range anxiety is
Yeah.
not an issue at all, and it really isn't an issue outside the city either. More people think it is more than it really is, but yeah, I'll go for anything. Maybe Sosa could have a fleet vehicle in the form of an SUV.
That might be a little bit of a. They're already reconsidering SAFC funding material items at all. That might be pushing it.
You want me to get you in contact with the person that could bring some here?
Oh, you mean, wait, you mean like to one of those events? That would be great.
Yeah, like they would bring them to you, so you
That'd
could
be
show
great.
them off.
Yeah, that would be great.
I could do that.
That would be great to have for one of the outside events.
They love showing them off. They've got a few different versions too: 2-seater, 1-seater, roadster, cargo version, pickup truck version. We got a lot.